Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's webinar in conjunction with Lenovo, Klika and AWS. We are happy to bring you Edge Technologies Driving Smart Manufacturing. As an FYI to all of our attendees, you have been muted upon entry. The easiest way to get in contact with our panelists, should you have questions or feedback, is to utilize the Questions tab on the GoToWebinar dashboard. We will be monitoring that throughout the webinar, so please ask your questions and we will be certain to ask. Without further ado, I will go ahead and pass things over to Steve. Take it away, Steve.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Steve Brummer. I'll be your moderator today. I'm a partner at a company called IOT Group, and I'm happy to be a part of an unbelievable panel of experts in the edge technologies area. As you can see from the title page, we're talking about driving smart manufacturing using edge technologies in the IoT space. Today, we're going to try and talk a little bit about the IoT manufacturing landscape, the ROI in IoT, from location to vibration and how predictive maintenance plays within the intelligent factory floor, and then the architecture around edge to outcome solution building. Edge computing today is extremely important to what we are trying to build within the industrial IoT space. As we push hardware and software deeper into the machines, we need to figure out what edge computing can do as relates to the analytics and the different types of information that you can get from those devices out on the edge. And so I'm happy to moderate, and let me give you a little idea of what the agenda today is going to be. For the first couple of minutes, we're going to have introductions done by all three members of the panel from Lenovo, Klika, and AWS. Then we're going to go into a guided question session where we have some softballs, but some questions for each other on the panel. Then we're going to go into a video demo and discussion of the architecture around the Klika solution offering, and then we're going to go into Q&A from the audience. So without further ado, we'd like to try and introduce everybody on the panel and have a better idea as to what they do. So here's the agenda, and here's the panelists. So why don't we go forth and conquer and start off? So Gennady, would you have a chance to introduce yourself and the company and give a little bit of your ideas around edge computing and what your company is doing?
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here. And I'm Gennady Borisov, President and co-CEO, one of the co-founders of Klika. Klika has been created to assist companies in building IoT and big data solutions, from hardware prototyping to firmware integration, connecting to the cloud, building cloud applications, and understanding all the data we can collect from various devices or other sources to help companies drive the ROI. We've been working with Lenovo and AWS, and what you're about to see today may answer many questions of importance of edge computing, as well how do you get started with the multiple initiatives related to edge computing and what outcomes can be driven. In our opinion, edge computing as of today emerges as one of the most important components of just-in-time, non-stop manufacturing. It unquestionably, if implemented right and strategically planned, can optimize the manufacturing chain, can drive higher ROI, and probably one of the most important parts, prevent unnecessary downtime. Plus, understanding all the data which can be collected using edge sensoring technologies and edge computing will unquestionably help companies become more effective.
Excellent. Mr. Tim Hennon from Lenovo, introduce yourself and your company.
Yeah, as Steve said, my name is Tim Hennon. I lead Lenovo's Smart Edge go-to-market strategy and execution in North America. From a device perspective, our focus is really finding the right balance of purpose-built devices, performance, and price, kind of hitting that sweet spot in the market. That's really going to drive the next gen development of edge technologies and solutions. So Based on our customer feedback so far, I think we've done pretty well with the first generation of devices to hit the market in the last year. Example of that, I've got one here, is the Nano IoT. Very nice device, up to a Core i5, compact, fanless, expandable I/O for different types of machine types, serial ports, LANs. Really nice device with LTE connectivity, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, worldwide certifications. You can go anywhere with this. All under $500. We don't have competition in this space. We're really driving those next gen devices, those next gen technologies that are looking for that scale that we're going to expect out of these edge solutions. So from a software perspective, we're really focused on doing stuff around our box that's going to enable developers to develop quicker, but really leveraging the ecosystem of partnerships that we are bringing together, partnerships like AWS, partnerships like Klika to bring that verticalized expertise and solutioning that's going to help our customers build those solutions that are going to get the best ROI in the shortest amount of time. So excited to be on the panel with you guys and look forward to the discussion.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. Austin, you're up. Tell us a little bit about AWS and your IoT strategies.
Hey, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm honored to be here with Gennady and Tim. I'm Austin Ash. I lead our strategic OEM partnerships for AWS within the AWS Partner Network, or APN. And what we're focused on is bringing together a collective of partners across the various complexity elements of IoT to make up an end-to-end solution across a broad set of use cases. In this case, we worked very closely with Klika and with Lenovo and actually brought them together to bring about the solution that you're going to see today as an example. But what we're really focused on in our IoT strategy is bringing many of the core AWS components that you think of that exist in the cloud and bring those to the edge. There are a lot of advantages to doing that, as Gennady and Tim and I will talk about as we get through this. And not many people think of AWS as an edge software entity, but we actually do have products and services that run on edge devices, which you're going to see today. So I'm focused on working with the key OEM entities in the world that are focused on the edge. And we work in unison with our broader APN network to bring about the end-to-end solutions to solve various outcomes for our customers.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Austin. And for everybody, my name is Steve Brummer. I'm a partner and co-founder of BH IoT Group. We are a worldwide leader in the advisory, execution, and consulting areas around IoT, industrial, and enterprise. Our whole claim to fame is we help companies bring product services to market around the world. And so if you look at some of the things that are going on in this business, we're trying to figure out how to make money in it. Whether it's for vendors or carrier partners or end user enterprise clients. So that gives you a little idea of what we do. So now we're going to go straight into the question and answer period. By the way, on your screen, there is an area to ask questions of the other panelists. And I'll be looking at them. The whole panelist team will be looking at them. And if they come up, we'll answer them either during or saving some time at the end for answering some of those questions. But I'm going to start off a little and start to go through some of the interesting ideas around industrial IoT and edge computing. And so let me start off with Tim. So Tim, Lenovo is one of the largest manufacturers in the world. What type of insight do you have that you can give us to address this market? Per se, are you eating your own dog food? Are you using your edge computing devices in industrial settings?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. I think, as one of the world's largest manufacturers, I think we produce something like 4 devices every second. And the scale is insane. Any type of even small improvements in efficiency that we can achieve can result in millions in dollars of savings in efficiency. So we're always looking for different ways. And as the technology is evolving, especially around AI and computer vision, we're seeing opportunities to take advantage of that, leveraging obviously not only our own hardware, but our competence in AI and HPC. One area where we've done some development is in automatic optical inspection. So as devices are coming down the conveyor belt or whatever, being able to scan that with a camera and recognize any type of anomalies or defects before they leave the factory, because once they leave the factory and the shipping costs and everything to replace that device can really blow up the margins. So that is one area where we think we see some good traction. Obviously, we're not making big, heavy machinery that we're connecting into, but it is really on that manufacturing side in terms of anomaly detection, defect detection, which utilizes that standard edge architecture that you'll kind of see replicated. We have a camera, IP camera connected into one of our compute devices like the Nano IoT, being able to do some edge processing with those devices and data acquisition, sending it back into a back end where we're able to do computer learning, machine learning, and do immediate alerts for the people on staff to pull the device off, or a machine to pull the device off before it's shipped out, as well as send the data back into a cloud environment where we can do tracking and data and history and things like that, and dashboarding. So it's certainly an area that we continue to evolve in, and as the technologies evolve, we're staying on top of it, and we're absolutely using our own, or eating our own dog food, as you say, being a leader in this space. Of course we would.
Excellent, thank you. Gennady, one of the things that is really tough in this industry is getting started. And a lot of companies are trying to figure out, how do we get started in a simple, easy way? And I know that you have worked with a lot of companies in the very beginning stages. They're coming to you, they have a problem, and you're trying to solve them. And I think you have a dev kit also that could be used out of the box and kind of tailored to meet specific goals. Can you tell us a little bit about what the customer journey is in the very beginning and working with Klika?
Thank you, Steve. Of course, as Tim and Austin pointed out, we collaborated to better understand what it would take for customers to take first steps. We always advocate initially a careful step-by-step approach where even the initial tests or sensor to the dashboard phase, or phase 0 as you could call it, is well understood, well documented, and measured. So you don't take a lot of steps, you don't start running very fast without understanding the road you're running on. So essentially putting together a kit which could allow a company to measure, sense the data, see the data in the dashboard, and take step-by-step approach is important. This is why we've collaborated together to create a kit which use the Lenovo's Nano IoT gateway. Again, production device, as Tim pointed out, it's not a toy, it's not Raspberry Pi, it is something you can use in real world environment. And we've used that device with additional sensors connected to a prototype of the industrial machine to sense, send, and present the data. It is worth mentioning that inside the device, we have a production-grade Greengrass, AWS Greengrass platform running, and it sends the data to the actual AWS architecture, which supports the entire data flow from the sensor to the gateway, from the gateway to the dashboard, and adding gateways, adding sensors, adding locations will rely on this architecture scaling. So starting from that dev kit, which is easily understood and easily deployable, will allow you to scale further.
Excellent. So Austin, AWS and your partner network and how you work with partners, is there anything different about IoT partners versus other partners? I know that we at BH IoT Group have been working with channel partners forever and distributors, but tell us a little bit about your partner network at AWS as it relates to IoT. How does it work? How do you become involved? What's the support mechanisms look like? And as it relates to edge computing, are you getting companies or partners coming to you specifically around edge or industrial?
Sure. Happy to answer that one. I think the first thing to understand is the AWS Partner Network is a global partner program for technology and consulting businesses who build on top of AWS technologies to build their products and solutions for the marketplace. And while the APN network spans across a wide variety of different partners with various expertise, in IoT, things get different because you're introducing the thing. And once you introduce the thing, the hardware, whether it's the Lenovo production nano gateway or sensors in general, it adds a significant amount of complexity to how the partners become part of the APN network and how they interlink between each other into solutions that actually solve customers' outcomes. And the way we look at it is we view the path to outcome in this edge to outcome value chain. So when we talk about edge to outcome, we start with the silicon vendors. As Tim mentioned, there's Intel inside of the Nano. So we actually work with Intel to ensure that there's a mechanism to reliably, safely, and securely take messages from Intel's libraries and put them into the Greengrass core that Gennady mentioned that lives on that gateway. Then we work with the OEMs. We work with Tim and his team and with the Lenovo broader team to get the Greengrass implemented onto the gateways in a scalable manner, such that they can be deployed in a ready to ship, ready to be activated in the field mechanism. And then we work with connectivity partners and system integrators like Gennady, whose business does that and much more, that can actually take advantage of the various building blocks up to that point, take the data and actually instrument it into a viable solution via dashboarding, machine learning, and other applications that deliver value. And so by taking what would normally be extremely complex, from sensor to gateway to connectivity to application to integration, we build a network of partners with those expertises, with AWS adding value at each and every step of the way to create a link that makes it fast and easy and efficient for customers to adopt IoT in their applications.
So Austin, are they coming to you asking about edge as a main solution for a problem, or is it really just overall IoT and edge is part of the overall solution?
It's both. When I think about the programmatic approach that we take with our partners, we have a couple of different angles that you can work with us on depending on where you're at in your IoT journey. So for example, we have a device catalog, and there are manufacturers like Lenovo who work closely with us to get Greengrass implemented onto the device and then qualified, which means that that device undergoes a certain amount of quality requirements to make sure that it will work correctly with connecting to the cloud in a safe, secure environment. Once that device gets published on the catalog, it becomes a place where customers and system integrators can come and source devices like that. Other programs, like our competency programs, help partners get a lot more in-depth into the IoT domain and also establish themselves as deep experts into the various elements of IoT. And so if you need a piece of hardware, you can come to the catalog. If you need a hardware vendor that does other elements like Lenovo, you can come work with them across their broad category, or you come to Klika directly, who does the system integration. So depending on what your need is and where you need to come, we have a program for the partner and we have an entry point for the customer.
Excellent. So Gennady, one of the questions I had was around ROI. So many times companies are coming to us and saying, you know, what's my ROI going to be? I mean, this stuff is still not as easy, or you know, there's some companies trying to get IoT in a box, but let's make that another session. But from an ROI perspective, how do you work with companies to figure it out? Is it the data and the value of that data?
Steve, excellent question. I just want to echo Austin and Tim's comments about complexity of IoT. By quoting, if I'm not mistaken, the AWS CTOs, there's no compression algorithm for experience. As you mentioned, IoT in a box is wonderful, but when you add increasing complexity of sensors, gateways, multiple networks, the entire chain becomes complex and needs to be properly managed. This is where you need companies with experience who know how to do it, have done it before. And that directly relates to the ROI question. You start from what is the value of the conveyor belt not stopping sporadically? What is the value of knowing about that conveyor belt is a bit worn out and needs to be replaced 2 weeks or a week before it breaks, and the entire payload of that conveyor belt is down on the floor? Your workers are disappointed or in a certain uncomfortable situation, maybe even injured. And what do you do while you send out for a replacement conveyor belt? Wait for it to be replaced and create kind of a bit of a chaos situation. So understanding the environment, understanding the data, and then assigning the value to a specific outcome of that data will drive the ROI. Of course, for every industry, it is different. If I monitor conveyor belt operation or elevator nonstop operations or something even more critical, every industry deserves and has a different formula. But I would start from understanding of the data and what is uninterruptible cycle worth to the company.
So, okay, excellent. Thank you. So, Tim, you're seeing a lot of people come to you with a lot of different types of challenges. Are there any commonalities between the challenges of why people come to Lenovo and start to talk to you about Smart Edge and what you offer? That's one of the big things we try and address almost every day.
Yeah, I think so. So, particular to like manufacturing and kind of almost brownfield technologies, the pace at which OT is being developed and kind of moving forward from a technology perspective obviously lags far behind that of IT and cloud services and all that we're doing on the other end of this. So I have seen that challenge come up multiple times where you have legacy devices out in the equipment, you've got stuff that you deployed maybe a few years ago, and it's not working for what the latest and greatest is. So what I've seen as trends to kind of get around that, I'd say 3 areas which make the most sense, or what I've seen the most common in. One is breaking apart the hardware selection from the software ISV or platform that you're utilizing, so that you're not locked into your hardware vendor's software, and any type of advancement that you want to make, any type of new technologies that you want to take advantage of, you're dependent on them to continue to evolve. So I've seen that as one area that customers have been coming to us as kind of more of a generic device to apply different types of software as a requirement. Another area is containerization. So taking the different parts of a solution and putting them into different containers. Obviously, the IO functionality doesn't need to be as updated as what's going on in cloud services and different types of analysis that's going on in the application. So being able to break those different things apart into containers, your development teams can operate at different development cycles. So we've seen that as well. And that is driving in sometimes more requirements on the compute side, where maybe they were using a basic gateway before Atom-based, and now they're moving up the stack. So that leads to kind of the third trend is, I'd say, upsizing their BOM requirements on new development technologies. So I'm not just going to build for today, because we're obviously seeing the advances that are happening here happen pretty quick. I want to maybe upsize. So if I was in a CPU like an Atom before, I may go into an i3 or an i5. If I had 4 gig memory before, I might upsize to 8, 16 gigs, somewhere in that range. So we're seeing that as even though I don't need it today, I need to plan for the future, because I don't want to have to go out and replace devices every 2 to 3 years, especially when my OT is only getting replaced, once every 15 years. So I think those are 3 trends that we see, and we're trying to solve where we can, and kind of building that scalable, both from a cost, performance, and capability from a device perspective, but also leveraging the right partners in this space is really critical for us, that are kind of operating in that next gen type of architecture.
Excellent. Tim, thanks for the segue into the next question around partners. So Austin, in looking at partners that are coming into your program, and I assume that there's a website that that has the partnership program outline that you can tell us what the address is for it. But are companies coming to you that have experience in IoT, or what percentage of them have no experience and say, you know what, I got to get into this business. It seems to be exploding, and what do you think?
Yeah, we do. We get businesses from all sizes and all types. And
Okay.
because of that, we really do have a very wide variety of resources to help our partners build the best and most innovative solutions in the market. And no matter where they are in their stage, we programmatically set them up to help them build the product or solution that they want or need. We help them market it, and we'll help them sell it. And we are, a very programmatic company in that stance, and we really try to drive this overall partner success. And we're not satisfied until all the partners in every market segment have built large, successful, sustainable businesses on AWS IoT services. And so our approach is a bit different. We're very long-term focused. We really want those partners to have becoming IoT and solving these complexities is not a destination. It is a journey. You're never done. You have to maintain the flexibility. You have to maintain some of the components Tim mentioned around operational efficiencies and OTA, and we have to partner with them in the long term to ensure their success. And with that, I would say that there are a couple websites that we'll show at the end that anyone who's interested in becoming a partner can go to that website and sign up. It's easy as one click. And that's where you start your journey, and where you can end is places where Tim and Gennady have taken their organizations, where they have moved into partner programs that are in the more advanced tiers that come with a whole lot more support and services. And when you're in those advanced tiers, that's where a lot of the partner matchmaking can happen, which is how we brought Lenovo and Klika together to solve this industrial edge use case that you're about to see.
Excellent. Gennady, we know that implementation could be very, very complex. Could a customer implement this in-house, or do, like we do, recommend that they look for partners like you to implement?
Thank you, Steve. Unquestionably, customer can implement it in-house. The initial implementation will be simplified by the kit we built together with Lenovo and AWS. But when you start talking about, again, intricate details of communications, radio interference, various environments, how do you shorten the path between data collection to reaction, data processing and reaction to the data? When you talk about scalable architecture, it is always better to get someone who've done it before involved. And this is why, again, partnering with organizations you see here will unquestionably accelerate it and make it more bulletproof.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we get into the solution demo part. And Gennady's going to take the opportunity to go through the solution that involves all three of the companies on the panel and have a little demo at the end. So Gennady, it's your turn to take over and tell us a little bit about what we're going to see and a little bit about the solution.
Thank you, Steve. What you see here is a demo kit we built working with Lenovo, obviously with AWS. And on this stand, you see the Lenovo Nano Industrial IoT Gateway. And as Tim said, it has a lot of various connectivity options. It has cellular connectivity options, USB, multiple industrial connectors to be inserted, to be driving that part of the industrial installation. And you see additional sensor board and the wire bending machine, which acts as our prototype for industrial manufacturing. You can imagine this machine being a few hundred times larger to truly bend and twist railroad tracks or any other parts which are needed in a current, heavy, let's say, industrial manufacturing environment. And this entire machine is connected via Lenovo's gateway to AWS Cloud, which processes the data coming from that machine and gives us an opportunity to understand and react to the situations. If we do a little bit of a deeper dive and look at the specific architecture of this solution, it is comprised of multiple parts. The first one is what is inside that machine and how do we collect the data. As you can see, we have a controller board which is connected to the Lenovo's gateway via serial USB, as well as multiple sensors which are connected to the machine. You can imagine in a real environment, in a real manufacturing situation, of course, the set of sensors will be different, but they will be picked according to what is important for the ultimate ROI formula. Is it vibration? Is it current fluctuations, temperature, humidity, optical data, or noise? So depending on the machine, depending on the environment, we will pick the special collection of sensors, and the readings from that sensors will be fed over MQTT to the gateway. Inside the gateway, we have the brain of the edge manufacturing operation. If we can go to the next slide, Steve, please. AWS Greengrass. I'd like to focus a little bit on this platform, and Austin, please jump in and correct me here, but the beauty of what we're showing here is a combination of industrial grade gateway, industrial, obviously world leader Intel processors, and AWS Greengrass, which can not only help us to collect the data, but it presents a platform which can function autonomously without even connection to the cloud if somebody, God forbid, decides to cut the cord, but to understand the data and react to the data. Think of it as a mini collect, control, and react center, which allows you to make decisions in real time. And in addition to that, the Greengrass can pre-process the data and send them to the cloud in the most efficient way possible, again, over MQTT. Sending the data to the cloud will feed the data into the AWS IoT core, which exists in a cloud in a nearest geographical location. I mean, any data center as close to the manufacturing as possible, capable of collecting and processing massive amount of information in near real time. The entire chain we're showing here has been optimized from the design perspective to not only collect the data, but shorten the path between the measurement, understanding, and reaction time, but at the same time allow you to collect the data from multiple points of manufacturing or points of control, understand the data, and react to them. And
so is the Greengrass, Austin, built into the Lenovo box?
Yes, the Greengrass core lives on that box. It essentially takes AWS cloud capabilities and brings them to the local device such that you can collect and analyze data, as Gennady said. It helps reduce the latency between these devices. It reduces storage. It reduces bandwidth requirements for sending data to and from the cloud, and ultimately gives someone like Lenovo and Gennady a chance to control the data in a multiple different variety of ways as it comes from the sensors and before it goes to the cloud. So Greengrass lives there, and then the IoT core, of course, is connected to the AWS cloud.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, as Tim said, IoT in a box, so think of it as cloud in a box, cloud in a gateway, or as Christina Aguilera said, genie in a bottle. That's truly the genie there.
Excellent. Next slide.
Yes, please.
There you go.
And what you see here is the next step in a data journey when the data come to the Amazon cloud. The data is fed into IoT core and processed by rules which are assigned to different types of data, to different situations. And then we have the machine learning powered by Amazon SageMaker, which interprets the data according to models we can create to be specific to the type of a manufacturer, specific to the situation. Learning as much data we can process, the more efficient the models would become. And based on the incoming data and the models, we have the anomaly detection rule, which then reacts to the data. So the entire path, then collecting the data, processing the data, understanding the data, reacting to the data, and then presenting the data in a dashboard to the user, which can either observe the data and trust the machine, trust the model to react to specific anomaly situations, or user can interact with the data and become the part of the collect, understand, control environment. And if we take
So,
yes.
a quick question. A lot of times customers are asking us about security along the stack. You don't bring it up here in any of these diagrams. Is security based on Amazon cloud, or is it based on your software within the industrial IoT and the edge?
I would say that security here is multi-layered. First of all, it's based on the security and design of the gateway, on the secure processing using Intel's security features, which are built into the gateway, and I'm sure Tim can talk about it in details. And then the entire data transmission from the sensor to the box to the cloud,
Wow.
gateway to the cloud, is secure end-to-end.
Okay, so go ahead.
So, what you see here is processing in the cloud and presenting the data in a dashboard to someone who can control it. This architecture is right now, it's more of a zoom out depiction of the architecture, but it is based on production industrial grade components, which will be present in an architecture which can scale from a single device to hundreds of thousands of devices. So we don't have to recreate it when we would like to scale and start from the scratch. Rather, we can base the scale, the next phase and the next phase on this architecture and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We see so many customers historically that have gotten kind of in that POC hell because it's, you can do it at one site, one device, and you've done it on Raspberry Pi, but now you start scaling it out. Like you said, Steve, I've got to start worrying about security, scale, product availability. How am I going to do all of this? So I think it's so important that customers think, how am I going to bring this forward? Not just how am I going to connect to something and get the data, but what do I do from there? And spend a little bit extra up front. And do it right the first time, so that way when you're ready to scale, the solution's ready to scale with you.
Right.
Kennedy, are they looking at OpEx versus CapEx, most clients, when they look at this entire integrated solution?
They're looking at both. And what Tim just mentioned is very important. From the very beginning, you don't have to recreate it. We've had conversations, and I've heard almost anecdotal stories of engineering groups saying, we've built a prototype, it works, now we need to take the next phase, go to the next phase. And CFO would say, okay, so let's scale it. No, we have to go back now, pick production components, production elements, production architecture, and rebuild it. So why would you do that? Yes, planning a little bit upfront helps, but then even doing the phase 0 based on specific, again, industrial components you will be using in production will help you to much better understand initial OpEx requirement and then CapEx requirement. It definitely helps.
Do you find most of the manufacturing clients, and Tim and Austin, please add on, are you finding most of the smart manufacturing or industrial space requiring you to do POCs and trials before deployment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo it. I would say that there is a desire now for the majority of the market to not just do a pilot from a technological perspective. I think that we've moved away from that. Can I securely take a sensor input, transmit it through the cloud, receive it on the other end, and do something useful to it reliably, end to end? And I think what's very important about what Gennady and Tim and AWS are going to demonstrate for you today is the elegance and ease at which that technological demoing and piloting capability is present today. You can literally stand this thing up in any manufacturing industrial facility in a matter of minutes, right? Couple hours. And so from moving out of pilot stage is less about technological capabilities. We get to focus now on the outcomes. What is it that you're trying to achieve in the manufacturing facility? Is it reducing downtime? Is it increasing your quality of output? Is it integrate, right? And how can we help you achieve those goals? Allows us to focus on the outcome and then leverage that whole edge to outcome value chain I mentioned in our partner network to deliver the tools and resources to that customer. So I think what you're going to see is far more focus on the outcomes when it comes to these pilots and less about the technology.
Agree. Yeah, we're seeing that too, where there's less science projects just to do a science project. Before you can even start the science project, we got to have a clear ROI that we can link back to. I definitely agree with what Austin's saying there.
Right, and I would like to add that pretty much all of our projects we've seen in the last couple of years, they require two things. First, they require a phase zero, not just a POC, but measured, understandable phase zero, where we can get the data from sensors and see the data delivered over the same production path companies will be using in real life. And the second, they require the OpEx calculators. And working with the AWS team, we always try to deliver those calculators to understand the entire financial chain of what it would cost for the company, at least based on what we know, to deploy it.
One of the big issues that we have around data right now, and if we look at solutions, people are sitting there going, well, I want to analyze the data, but it seems that we're looking at only like 10% or 15% of all data is actually used and analyzed and put onto a dashboard for actionable items. Are you seeing the same thing?
This is why we start asking a lot of questions from the very beginning. If you'd like to measure, for example, the noise of a specific motor, how are we going to use it? I mean, is it present as one of the in one of the formulas of the SageMaker models? How does it affect everything else? If you'd like to just measure the noise or the optical light or anything just to store it, do you have an understanding how you're going to use it? We can absolutely collect enormous amount of data, store it, manage it, but do you really need it? And if you have certain question marks, okay, let's collect the data. It's extremely valuable. You cannot go back and try to collect it later, but we always ask these questions. Think about it before you start building to collect the data.
Yeah, and I think with Edge too, you're able to do more at the edge without having to just send tons of bandwidth up into the cloud, which is going to give you, higher costs and lower, with the limited amount of bandwidth, you're able to do more at the edge in terms of edge processing, some edge storage before you actually, push everything up into the cloud.
Yeah, and I think the architecture of the Lenovo's gateway and Greengrass core allows you to do that. You can collect 100 data points, pre-process them, archive them, and only send 15 of them to the cloud because they may not be needed in the cloud-based model, but they could be important at the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would device it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, it's a really good question, and what I would add to what Tim and Gennady are saying is the way AWS views this world of all this data is when it comes to IoT and that complexity, what we're trying to do is reduce that complexity, simplify it, reduce the friction. And the friction comes from three areas when it comes to all this data. One is the law of physics, right? Can I physically connect this device and actually send the data somewhere into the cloud, and can I do that reliably? There are various places, whether it's a manufacturing plant or a disparate part of the world, that creates some physical barriers to actually connecting data, connecting sensors. The second thing is the law of economics. To Gennady and Tim's point, how do you cost effectively do this? Do we have the right tools and capabilities to do this at scale where it's not millions and millions and millions of dollars just to get this data and we don't even know what to do with it?
Right.
And then third is the law of the land. So there are government requirements, there are safety requirements in manufacturing facilities that you have to abide by certain protocols. And so can we have an elegant way to simplify and manage the correct amounts of data and making sure that it goes to the right places at the right time in the right way so that we're following those guidelines? And that's what all of the tools and capabilities we've built, whether it's Greengrass that lives on the edge or IoT Core and SageMaker and all the other services that we have, it is specifically to help create more opportunities for companies to get more of their data, do more of it, make it more actionable, to drive outcomes that they didn't even know existed. And to Gennady's point, that is what drives the ROI. It's not a let's do the first thing here. It's let's do the first thing here that's going to drive the ROI, and here's the exponential value that comes down the road now that you are connected.
What about ownership of the data?
Customers own their data.
So the end user owns the data.
Yes. And even architecturally.
Depending on who the end user is, right? The end user could be the machine maker if you're developing
Right.
a technology versus the factory that might want to connect all of their devices.
Right. Understood. Yeah, it just becomes more, it's becoming more and more of a question, right, around security and privacy and the ownership of that data, and the entire chain of value and where it's most used. So.
All right. I mean, you can get into regionalizing the data. I mean, if you cannot send the data from region to region, it has to be kept in a specific region. How do you consolidate the results of the data processing between regions? How do you anonymize the data potentially? So again, working within the architecture of the AWS and having Lenovo present in pretty much all the regions in the world, it is much easier to construct the same model without crossing proverbial boundaries.
Excellent. All right, should we go to the next slide?
Yes, and the next slide probably will be the most complex one, where we take a few steps back and zoom out and see the entire architecture. Yes, you can laugh about it. It looks very complex, but a few points I'd like to emphasize, I've said them before. What you see here is not theoretical. What you see here is a practical real-world architecture which works, which can be deployed, as Austin and Tim pointed out, within a number of hours, and it gives you the full data path from the sensor to the edge, from the edge to the cloud, and ultimately from the cloud to the outcome. I mean, we internally call it sensor to funding to make engineers and CFOs happy. So they not only understand the entire infrastructure, but they can be rest assured there are no potential surprises.
How many people that you talk to in a pre-sales scenario and you show them this screen actually understand what you have laid out here?
Typically in a pre-sales conversation, we get at least 2 to 3 groups involved. Obviously, it is the engineering group, and very quickly from the engineering group conversation, we get into the business group discussion. So it's not only right now kind of siloed, which used to probably be the true a few decades ago, but as of today, they're very tightly intertwined. So our typical conversation is engineering, business, and all the way to executive management, because IoT initiatives nowadays, they have tendency to be very cross-group and very strategic for any company, especially in the manufacturing space.
Excellent. Thank you.
So now seeing this architecture, I think we need to move to the exciting part and prove to everyone who's attending our event that it's not just an architecture, it is something we can demonstrate. something workable. And what you see on the screen here is the actual machine with the actual dashboard and data streaming from that machine. The dashboard presents real-time readings we're taking from sensors placed on this wire banding machine. And as we read, we display on the screen readings from sensors connected to the wire bending machine when it starts to move. And you can see the feeding wheel moving, pulling the wire and bending this shape, the spring shape wire, identifying certain anomalies. As you can see, I'm going to read the prompt and point out that the Nano gateway acts as a center brain of this entire operation. Of course, in a real environment, it would not be placed on the machine, but because of multiple connectivity options and being able to locate it everywhere, it could be securely tagged into specific enclosure. And as you can see, the spring is getting larger and larger as the machine performs its functions, reading all the vital elements of machine components. Thank you. We're doing a zoom in to show you that it really works.
That's good.
No, in many cases, you will be surprised the number of pre-recorded or canned demos where it shows you how it's supposed to work versus how it really works.
So here you have the PC working as embedded compute as well as kind of an edge device, taking stuff from AWS and Greengrass and the application, but also being the brain of the device.
Yes.
Very cool.
And this is a demo kit, which is, Steve, team, and Austin pointed out, is ready to go with a production level architecture, with the code running on the gateway, with the code running on AWS. And this could work as a first leap of faith to see how you can get started. You don't have to put it on paper anymore. You don't have to think about it. Kind of, how would I do it? It allows you to get going. It allows you to connect real sensors, use a production level gateway, production level enterprise grade components to begin your journey.
Excellent.
And how long did you say this took about, Gennady? Yeah. Around, just to kind of get the thing together. I know you did it pretty quick.
Yes, what we see here is a sensor board, which is connected to sensors placed in specific points of the machine, and those sensors are serial USB connected to Lenovo gateway, and the gateway is connected to the cloud. Those are main points and main component building blocks of this solution. Awesome. Given that we can remove the wire bending machine and we can imagine a manufacturing line, we can imagine a conveyor belt, we can imagine stamping machines. I mean, anything in the manufacturing space, anything in condition monitoring space could be made much more efficient and streamlined if you strategically place sensors and send the data to the cloud. One of the examples we've seen actually is a company who asked us the following: we already have the machines, we already have PLCs connected, we're already collecting the data, but we would like to collect more or monitor the state of our machines in addition to what we already have. But we cannot open those PLCs, we cannot open those machines. What do we do? What we're presenting today answers that question. You don't have to open those machines. You don't have to crack open PLCs or go into the talking to the man behind the curtain. You can pick sensors on the open market. You can pick devices on the open market, connect them or place them onto specific parts of the machine, find the best placement, connect them to the Lenovo gateway to the cloud, and see the data in addition to what you already have. So creating additional layer of understanding and optimizing your manufacturing lines even further.
Excellent. Well, as we go into the last 5 minutes of our event today, I wanted to talk a little bit about education. It seems that we're having to spend a lot of time educating all of our prospects on a lot of different areas. And, you know, as we said, this is still not easy. There's still a lot of pieces and parts of the solution. So how do you, in our last closing statements from each of you, give us a little bit about, you know, what you want people to learn about or where they should go to get more information besides going to each of us for that data. So why don't you start off, Austin, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about education, and then, you know, what do you want to leave this audience with?
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to education, depending on where you are in your IoT journey, there are a number of different resources. And if you want to start with AWS, we have a number of seminars, online education tools. Some are free, some are available to our partners. And so whether you want to start with, I want to build something or I want to buy something, there is a place for you to start your education session there. But what I would say is that educating yourself on IoT now and trying to understand the deep elements of whether it be security, whether it be privacy, right? Whether it be machine learning, whether it be how you're going to connect disparate sensors and devices into the cloud and manage it. What's unique about the APN network and how we've constructed it from edge to outcome is we have found the best in class entities around the world who have that deep domain expertise. As Gennady said, the experience that is within the domain of each of our partners is extensive. And so sometimes it's just easier to pick up the phone or send an email to a company like Klika that already has that information, and the education that you need at that point is just, how do I get started? How much is it going to cost? Is this really going to deliver the ROI? And it's less about the heavy burden of, oh my gosh, what's inside this box? Is it secure? How do I connect it to this system and that system? And don't burden yourself with that. Lean on the experts, lean on the teams that do this day in, day out.
Agreed. Tim, any closing comments?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we've seen out there is a lot of times IT or the technology side starts driving the conversation, and to the education part, I think it's really important for our customers to be talking to their guys working on the OT, the guys out in the field, figuring out what the true challenges are, because if you don't get adoption from the people being impacted, you end up seeing the things not working, right? You end up seeing it not scaling. You see resistance and friction. So when you go out and you can solve problems that, you know, not only are addressing the top line, but what the challenges the people in the field are having, I think you'll get better success rates.
Excellent. And Gennady, you get to close it out.
I would say, selfishly, look at many examples available on Lenovo's side, available in AWS catalogs. Look at case studies we have and ask questions. Don't hesitate to ask. The more you ask up front, the more we can discuss and understand, the more companies presented here can share from their experience, the better outcome will be.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for participating in the panel. We are scheduled to have a next technical session with the three groups here, June 28th, and you'll get more information as we go over the next couple of weeks regarding that technical session around a deeper dive into the three aspects of this solution. I'd like to thank all the sponsors. For anybody that wants to look at this again or pass it around, a recording of this will be available in about an hour. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you all joining. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great day. This is Steve Brummer from IOT Group, thanking everyone for participating. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.